Car Obsession is proudly supported by Carly and Draggy. Check out the video description to find out the latest discount codes. Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to another point of view drive. This time I'm joined by the brand new Audi e-tron GT. So normally I would give you a look around the car, but the near side is extremely muddy, so yeah, you're not really going to want to see that. The roads in the UK are quite dirty at the moment. So let's just go straight into the car and go for a drive before the sunlight fades. The inside of the car is also a little bit mucky, so yes, it is quite muddy today. Anyway, you don't really care about that. Now, you can have this car in 3 different varieties. You can either have this in... I need to go backwards, actually. We've got 360-degree camera. Coming in very handy there. You're going to have this car in standard e-tron GT form, which is what I have. Well, I say I have. This car's been loaned to me by Audi UK. Sadly, I cannot afford cars like this. I can only dream.
It's who you get as an international.
Well, that'd be the radio. Radio 4 for some reason. Not that I'm a listener of that station. Right, are we good? Yes. As I was saying, you're going to have this in e-tron GT, 4-sprung, or if you're feeling really bold and you've got the cash to splash, you can have an RS version. Now that version offers 646 horsepower. I think the 0 to 62 is about 3.3 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. So a very, very rapid car. Having said that, this car is by no means a slouch. It offers 376 horsepower along with 640 newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, I will of course drop a subtitle below. Now, as much as I say this offers 376 horsepower, this has a boost mode, therefore it can offer 530 horsepower. Yeah, the boost mode and the launch control, they're pretty much the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. It's rapid. This car will do 62 miles per hour in 4.1 seconds. The top speed, in case you're really wondering, is 152 miles per hour. Now, when we have a quieter bit of the road that is straight, I will demonstrate a launch, but it will be difficult to do it and stick to the speed limit because the way in which this car picks up speed is quite staggering, to say the least, as you will see very, very shortly. Well, when we get to a more open bit, shall we say. Now, this is not a cheap car. The standard car, the e-tron GT, has a starting price of £85,900, but the car I'm sat in does have a few options. Therefore, this car I'm in right now is £94,915, and in fact, I think that makes it the most expensive press car I've ever been given, so I do need to treat it with love, although the outside is very, very muddy. Right, so come to a stop, need to be in dynamic mode for this. Right, do it quickly because there's a car coming. Foot on the brake. Oh! Oh! Yeah, as you can tell, it's proper fast. I know I didn't quite get to 60, but I didn't want to creep over the speed limit, so I backed off just beforehand. But yeah, again, I won't do another launch, but just slow down and just put foot down. Oh! Yeah, the speed is a little bit immediate, so God knows what the RS model is like. That must be an absolute animal. Now, I've driven quite a lot of cars, quite a few fast cars, quite a few EVs, but nothing I've driven has given the same kind of acceleration this car has. It's, well, I was going to say it's electric. That's a very bad pun, but what I mean is it's staggering. This car is so fast, and what's even more amazing, you need to bear in mind this car is over 2.3 tons. It is by no means a featherweight, far from it. Very, very impressive. Now, it may be big and heavy, but it's still very, very capable in the corners. Of course, I've got the Quattro all-wheel drive system, and at each corner of the car I've got Pirelli Cinturato P7 blue tyres. Wouldn't be my first choice, I must be honest. If you go for the RS, and I think the Vorsprung has them as well, you can get Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres, but for the standard car, you have the Pirellis. And although they wouldn't be my first choice, they do a pretty good job in this car. Now, to go back to the Quattro all-wheel drive system, Audi states that this setup is 5 times faster compared to a mechanical Quattro setup. So yes, very, very smart and very, very sophisticated. Now, if you go for the Vorsprung or the RS model, they actually have all-wheel steering. This car doesn't have that. And another thing this car doesn't have that you can get on the Vorsprung or the RS model is air suspension. No, this car instead has got standard springs with adaptive dampers. To be fair, the ride in this car is very, very good. It is exceptional, even in dynamic mode, which I'm in now. It's still compliant, it's composed. I don't feel as if my bones are being rattled or my fillings are being rattled loose. I say fillings, I've only got one, just the one filling. That's still securely in place. But if you want to have a more serene drive, you can pop it into comfort. You've got efficiency, comfort, dynamic and individual, by the way. Pop it into comfort and this car just glides over the tarmac, which is very impressive when you bear in mind, as standard, this car is on 20-inch alloys. Very, very impressive. On the front axle, the tyres are 245mm wide, and on the rear, this is a staggered setup. On the rear, they are actually 285, so you've got fatter rubber on the rear to give you better traction in that area. Right, pop it back into dynamic. Oh yes. Through the corners, the e-tron is very, very well calculated and composed. The steering is faster than I was expecting. Maybe a little bit too fast sometimes. It does take a little bit of time to get used to the calibration, because even though this is a big car, it's very eager to change direction considering the size. I wouldn't go so far to call it agile. Well, it's relatively agile given the size and the weight. Yeah, it's properly well sorted. The brakes have got a good feedback to them. I've driven a lot of EVs where the brake pedal is numb. It's almost as if it's been given general anaesthetic or something. But no, in the e-tron GT, when you press the brakes, you get a nice firm feedback. You get a proper sense of how much stopping power you are applying, which is important when you bear in mind just how quickly this car can build up speed. It is very, very impressive. To help with the handling, Audi has worked very hard to give this car a nigh-on perfect 50-50 weight distribution. Audi has done that by putting the batteries for this car not only low down in the car, but between the front and rear axles. Now, if you go for the Vorsprung and the RS versions, you do also get a carbon fibre roof as well. In this car, I've got a fixed panoramic glass roof, which is very nice because it means it lets natural light into the cabin and makes it a bit more airy, because as you can see, the cabin is a little bit on the dark side. Now, speaking of the cabin, I have as an optional extra the non-leather package. So if you look at the seats, if you have a little look at them, they are made using recycled materials such as plastic bottles. Rumour has it that if you suck them hard enough, you can actually taste old Coca-Cola. Of course you can't, I just made that up. I strongly recommend you don't suck the seats on your Audi e-tron GT, because you will look like a lunatic. But if that floats your boat, then by all means, crack on, I won't stop you. Always a precarious place to stop, right on the bottom of a steep hill on a bend, but I think we've got away with it. And again, I can demonstrate the surge of power from the two electric motors. Right, ready, You're not ready. You're not ready. Whoa! Oh. And then before you know it, you look at the head-up display when doing 56 miles per hour. Just absolute scenes. That's what this car is. Absolute scenes. It's obscene, actually, the way how this thing picks up speed. It is crazy fast. Now you may be able to hear a little bit of an ambient sound being pumped into the cabin. This car, as an option, it's standard on the Vorsprung and RS models, has got the e-tron sound, which I think is a £500 option. Essentially, you've got the drive control unit. It feeds information to you've got two sound units. One is responsible for 2 external speakers, and the other one is responsible for 2 internal speakers. The external speakers play a louder noise to make it safer for pedestrians, because this car is so fast that in a blink of an eye, this car will be upon them, so to speak. And for the inside of the car, there's a noise to enhance the driving experience, according to Audi. I would argue, save your £500. I think it is a bit of a gimmick, if you ask me. But the system uses 32 audio files, and it calculates what noise it should play depending on the rotational force of the electric motors. I'm not saying it's not clever, but I think it is a gimmick. So yeah, if you're speccing a standard e-tron GT, save your money is what I would say. This car does have a few other options, one of which is the comfort and sound package. So normally this car would get standard LED headlights, but because I've got the comfort and sound package, I also get matrix LED headlights. So when you've got the high beam on, it's able to change the beam pattern to keep some parts of the road illuminated without dazzling other road users, which is a good thing. We don't want to dazzle people. I would say the outside design of this car is enough to dazzle people. It is a stunner, a very, very good looking car. Now, in regard to charging times, you can charge this using a charger up to 270 kilowatts. But in theory, you can get this from 5% to 80% in 23 minutes. Pretty good going. And again, if you use the right charger, I believe you can gain 62 miles of range in just 5 minutes. So that's a time to go and get a coffee. So that is pretty good. So if you're caught short on a bit of range on your journey, you can pop in, providing you get the right charger. Don't get me wrong, that won't work if you use a 7 kilowatt charger, for example. So don't try that, because you'll be disappointed and stressed. But yes, the e-tron GT is a very, very good bit of kit. Just a shame it's so pricey. Refinement, as you would expect, is very, very high indeed. Using my sound meter at 70 miles per hour, I recorded a sound between 66.1 decibels and 66.6 decibels, which makes it, I actually think that might be the quietest car I've ever tested. So very, very good stuff, Audi. There is a little bit of road noise coming in from the 20-inch alloys, but it's by no means deafening, and it's quite easy to forget about it. It's almost just like white noise. And of course, if you've got the Bang & Olufsen sound system on the go, then yeah, you don't need to worry about the tyre noise. Now, in case you're wondering about how you can configure the individual modes, so if I just go into the drive select and hit the little notepad, so you can change the drive system. You can either have efficient, balanced or dynamic. You can change the suspension to either be comfortable or dynamic, and you can change the sound profile, but I like it in dynamic. Let's have everything dynamic, because even that mode is pretty comfortable. Now, there are some drawbacks to the e-tron GT. As much as this is a fantastic car, it isn't perfect. Rear visibility, as you can hopefully see, is pretty rubbish. It's like trying to peer through a letterbox, so that isn't very good. Rear space isn't the greatest, particularly if you're a taller person like me. I'm 6'2". Practicality, yeah, that leaves a little bit to be desired. And the boot isn't the largest. It offers 405 litres. You do get a fruit, that's a front boot. If you're watching this in America, you would call it a frunk, or a frunk. That was a very poor American accent. I've never been particularly good with accents, I must admit. Yeah, you do get a fruit which offers 81 litres. That gives you a bit of additional space. I have to say, out of all of the electric cars I've tested, this is, yeah, definitely the one I've found the most enjoyable. And it's also the most expensive, so maybe I've just got a expensive taste, who knows. I'm like a magpie, I like the shiny things. Right, avoid the potholes, and the cyclist obviously. Yeah, this car is a proper bit of kit. And I'm very lucky and grateful to have been given the car for the week by Audi UK. So Audi UK, if you're watching, I'm sure you are, I am very thankful. And I will make sure the car's cleaned because yeah, the outside is grubby. The inside isn't much better, but again, that will be addressed. Don't you worry. I would never give a car back filthy. Not my style. It's cars like this that make me think, actually, maybe electric cars aren't all bad after all. In case I haven't mentioned it, I know I mentioned the charging times, but this has got a range of around 300 miles. Although when I had it fully charged this morning, the maximum it would give me in theory was 241. So that's quite a deficit. Now, I know it is colder at the moment, it's at 3 degrees as I speak right now. That will have an effect on the batteries, but yeah, a little bit disappointing. And that's where electric cars need to really step up their game. I know Teslas can offer better ranges, but yeah. My diesel A6, for example, yeah, okay, it's far from a green car, but the amount of miles on one tank I can get on that just makes it a more worthwhile proposition for a longer journey. And to be fair, that's also a very comfortable car. Now, you may have spotted the paddles on the steering wheel. Of course, they aren't to change gear. No, they change the strength of the regenerative braking. They feel very nice in the hands. In fact, everything in here, everything that you communicate with, it all just feels just right. And I love the fact that you have a proper physical control panel for the climate control. Too many manufacturers is was that a 205 GTI? I think it was. Did they make them in red? Don't know, either way, pretty cool to see a 205 regardless. Yeah, too many manufacturers nowadays are burying the climate control in the touchscreen, and yeah, it's just a bit of a faff. Anyway, enough moaning, time for me to finish. As is often the way with one of my point of views, with a lovely view of the wondrous South Downs. Look at that, glorious, absolutely glorious. Right, pop it into park so I don't roll down the hill. A big thank you to you guys watching this video, and of course a big thank you to Audi UK, of course. If you have enjoyed this video, I found it useful, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.